Good morning, everybody. Oh my gosh. I went out with my wife on a trip, just following her around as the love hub because she flies for Southwest Airlines. And sometimes I go out with her on trips, and I totally blew it that I was supposed to be on at 6 o'clock this morning. So I apologize for being like over an hour late on this thing. But hey, stuff happens. We are in the book 10 Power Stories to Impact Any Leader. Journal your way to leadership success. And on this day, we are moving through this book. We are now out of this 10 chapter book. Um, we are on chapter number 8. Can you believe it? We are already on chapter number 8, and I wanted to make sure I came on, even though it's a little bit late. And on this chapter number 8, we're really talking. What we're talking about is rebuilding on a false summit. Before we get to that, my name is John Register, and welcome. Thank you. Whenever you take a chance to listen to this podcast, what we're doing for these 10 episodes is just going through the book 10 Power Stories to Impact a Leader. Journal your way to leadership success. I wrote this book for our U.S. ambassadors who are 50-50. 50 of them are they are individuals who have been career people, and 50% are appointees. So those are the groups that this book was written for. It was written right before the pandemic. But who am I? John Register, three-time Paralympic, three-time All-American in track and field for the University of Arkansas. Uh, Twice went to the Olympic trials in the hurdles, once in the high hurdles, once in the 400-meter hurdles, and also went in long jump as well. And then had an accident when I was serving in the United States Army, which resulted in the amputation of my left leg. Through my wife's encouragement, giving me a new normal mindset, I began to retool, reposition, re-elevate myself, reformulate what I could do, what I thought was possible. Instead of focusing on the 5% of things I could no longer do, I focused on the 95% of things I still could do, and began building a parallel path in the military and in sports and athletics. I swam for physical therapy and wound up 27 months post my amputation swimming in the Paralympic Games. On the military side, I started working for the Army's Community and Family Support Center and helped to build out what became the world-class athlete program as a full-fledged program that now is residing in Colorado Springs, where I reside. Uh, and then after 4 years later, after competing in the Paralympic Games, I won the silver medal in the long jump in Sydney, Australia, and began a program for military folks to use sports as a tool for the rehabilitation for the United States Olympic Committee, now Olympic and Paralympic Committee. I'm so excited for each one of you, and let's dive into this book. I now work with business professionals to help them hurdle adversity by amputating fear, embracing a new normal mindset to win the medals that are in their lives. This story is called Rebuilding on a False Summit. Rebuilding on a False Summit. Now, what do we mean by that? But when I wrote this back in 2020-ish, it wasn't 2020. The challenge was I hadn't fully developed out what I now have it as right now in Rebuilding on a False Summit. I was just focusing on thinking about what the challenge is. Now, in Wikipedia, the false summit, I'm going to read out here, is a peak that appears to be the pinnacle of a mountain. But upon reaching it, it turns out that the summit is higher. False summits can have significant effects on a climber's psychological state by inducing feelings of dashed hopes. The climber believes that they are at the summit, only to find out that there's more climbing to do. We have a false summit here in Colorado Springs. It's the incline. And every time people climb up the incline, they think they're at the top. They think they're the crest of this stair stepper that's almost a mile long, going up, 2,000 feet. It's a bear of a climb. And as soon as they see the top, they think that they're there, and then there's a little bit more to go to finish out the climb. And there's a turnoff there, which is the bar trail to come back down. And many people, they right before they get to that false summit, they take the bar trail off because it is a very strenuous climb. In life, sometimes we have these false summits. We try to go back and we try to build upon something that is no longer accessible to us. When I had my leg amputated, I don't get my leg back. So I can't build on a premise of having two legs again. I can use an artificial leg, but it is not the same as walking on two warm-blooded legs. What are some of the things that you have had that have happened in your life that are false summits that you're trying to build upon, that you're trying to elevate your life on, but it's no longer accessible to you? False summits usually come out with people start saying things like, man, I wish things would just get back to normal. Can't we just go back to the way it used to be? Well, it never has gone back to the way it used to be. It never will go back to the way it used to be. But if we keep saying let's build upon something that was in existence before us, we're not honoring the present state in which we're in. And that's the biggest part of this lesson for today. Building upon the false summit is one of these things where we cannot go back and build on something that was not there. Once we discover we can't go back, and this is on page 2 of this, or actually page 40, the way things used to be, the reality is that we can have significant effects. It can have significant effects on our psychological state because we think we can go back. And so when we think we can go back to the way it used to be, our psyche believes that we can tell others the same thing. And all I got to do is just get back to the way it used to be instead of honoring where we are right now in the present moment. I was watching, as everybody has, Caitlin Clark, and going to the draft and all the rise that she has. Once she leaves, I can't remember who. I think it was Dana Taurasi. Dana Taurasi said, "Will she have as much success in the WNBA?" She was asked that question, and Dana said, "Look, there are levels to this game, right? She is dominating against 17, 18, 19-year-olds, maybe 20-year-olds in college. She comes to the NBA or the WNBA playing against grown women that want to eat. So there are levels to this thing, and of course she's going to adapt. She's going to come in, but we expect people to elevate with their level of play every time that there's a level of moving upward, and that's a hard thing for a person to undergo. I think we have to, give space and grace for others, for ourselves, to grow in this spot. It's a powerful lesson for that. Hey, Robert Kennedy, good morning, my friend. I love that you are on this morning. We got to have some more talks. Robert Kennedy, if you don't follow him, he's one of the most amazing speaker coaches that's out there. He is a great communicator. He's part of the National Speakers Association, and we're just great friends, great buddies. So thanks for being on, my friend. So as we're looking at this elevation, can we honor the place where we are and then allow ourselves space and grace to grow? Now, I told you that when I wrote this in 2020, I was just developing this concept. So I have to go back and rewrite something else, another story. I can keep the same story, but where I'm at right now with this is I have 3 levels of growth. So when somebody asks me, how did you overcome the amputation? I now say and now realize I didn't, because had I overcome the amputation of my left leg, I'd have my leg back. So I didn't overcome it. I adapted around it. I innovated around it. I had to get ingenuity around it. And I believe that's what we all have to do, because we don't get back what we desire to have back after some type of trauma has impacted our life. That is when we actually hurdle the reckoning moment. So we have the reckoning, the revision, and the renewal moments in our lives that we have to hurdle. I, in this book, called it chapter number 8, excuse me, and as the false summit. I now have called it, what I see it in its better form, is the reckoning, renewal, and the reckoning, revision, and renewal. In the reckoning moment, we have to reckon that we don't get back things the way that they used to be. It's just not going to happen. Once I've accepted that, once I'm no longer saying I wish things would go back to normal, now I have the opportunity to hurdle into the revision. And the revision is I get to cast a new vision on what might be possible, but I haven't hurdled it until I actually make a commitment to the new vision that I'm trying to get to. I need to make that commitment. If I don't make a commitment, it's probably because of one of three reasons. The first reason is because there are other people that are believing for me what I can or cannot do, which is often based upon what other people believe they could or could not do if they were in my situation. Secondarily, we have society. Society impacts us, dictates to us what is possible for us, and we believe it. It's very difficult to break away from what society has stated. We might think we're outside of our own bubbles, but we're really in our own echo chambers, and we don't move forward. There was a study that was done back in the late in the 50s on whose line is it anyway. I think that's what it was called, or I can't remember the name of the show. But they had four people that went into an elevator. They all had hats on, and one person that was the patsy. They would get in the elevator and they didn't have a hat on, but they had a hat in their hand. And by the time they got to the next floor, that person had their hat on too. And then they would take their hats off, and that person would take their hat off too with the candid camera. That's what it's called, candid camera. They would take their hat off too. So we conform. We conform to what other people are doing around us, especially in our spheres of influence. And third, I'm the one that has to commit to that hurdle. I have to win. I'm the one that has to jump the hurdle. I have to attack the hurdles that are in my life. So once I've hurdled that and bought into the vision that I now am stating, now I'm in the renewal, which begins with a rebirth, which is the most hardest part of the model. Why? Because that's when a commitment has been made. In the reckoning moment, we can kind of go back and kind of spin out over there with thinking things can go back to the way they used to be. In the renewal, in the rebirth part of the renewal, when the commitment is made, it's impossible to go back to the way it used to be. You have crossed a chasm that is, you cannot go back the other way. Like I said before, when the doctor amputated my left leg, I don't get my leg back. When you make a commitment, you do not get back what you desire to have back. It's gone. It's impossible. Now, you might have phantom pains to it. I get phantom pains, thank goodness, not as much as I used to. But phantom pains remind me of a time when I had two legs because the pain is so great in the leg that is no longer there. Maybe you've lost a loved one and you have the pain of not being able to call up your mom or your dad or your sister, your brother, whoever it might be that you lost. Maybe you have the pain of a relationship that has just ended. Maybe you have the pain that you have just gone from professional sports now back to intramural sports because you can no longer play at the professional level any longer. Maybe you have the pain of leaving the United States military or the military, and now you're back to civilian life. And you have the pain of not being with those individuals again that you served with. Those are painful things, but that chasm has been crossed. You can't go back in either one of those situations. We don't get our family member back. We don't get that relationship back generally. We can't go back into the military. Those are hard things. We don't get our friends back at the professional level. You leave baseball, football, whatever. We usually don't get back to that level of play again. And those are painful moments. Those are hard things. So now like I said earlier, we need space and grace to grow. Let me give you an example. The space and grace I needed to grow, because I just didn't run into up and jump up to a silver medal. I need to learn how to walk on an artificial leg. That was new. I needed to learn how to walk on a 4-bar walker with that artificial leg around the hospital. That was new. I had to learn how to uh, go from walker to a wheelchair, or walker to a cane, crutches, cane, free walking, running, jumping to a paralympic medal. That process took 7 years. But we think we just want it right now. So we have to give ourselves space and grace to grow in that time. Learn the new. Because if we don't learn the new, we're thinking we can go back to the way it used to be, and we can't. We have to learn the new process, new sequences. That's why it was so difficult during the pandemic. That's why I say we're still in it, because a lot of people didn't learn the lesson during the pandemic that we need to give ourselves space and grace to grow. We just want things to go back to the way they used to be. It doesn't work that way. And then finally, I'm in my resolve. I'm in my resolution. I know exactly how I am showing up. I know exactly what I'm focused in on, dialed in on. And that resolution allows me to be in a mindset that says, I'm never going back to the way it used to be. No, you all need to catch up to where I am. And that equals my reward that I have at the end of it. The reward's not the destination. The reward's because I recognize there's a plateau. It's a plateau for the next level of growth. That's where we are. It's the next level of growth. So it's not like I'm climbing the ladders of success. Lay that ladder down, turn the ladder into stones. I'm stepping from stone to stone, and I'm building on the stone that was laid down there by somebody else, and they gave me a level for me to have the courage to take the next step to the next stone. So we honor the stones that came before us, the stones they're going to be laid out ahead of us, and the stone that we are actually on to get us to the next level that we're trying to get to cross that chasm. So now we can be empathetic for others who are on the journey and on the process. So we can't build upon, as I said in here, a false summit. Can't build upon that false summit because that summit is gone. It's already gone. We just don't realize that it's gone. So I hope you enjoyed that for today. That is chapter number 8. Chapter number 8, from the author's perspective, is building on a false summit. Next week we're going to be in chapter number 9. It's called "The Church, the Creek, and the Kid." It's one of my 2 favorite stories in this book. There are only 10 stories, so we're almost done. Only 10 stories, and "The Church, the Creek, and the Kid" is one of these. I love it. It's a great story about my son and myself. I love talking about my kids, especially when they have taught me something that is just amazing. We are also in the space of the sign up period for, if you want the newsletter going out. I think that's what you hit right there, the johnregister.com/sign-up. And we're doing, I think we just put out this week, the team just put out that on Tuesday, the 23rd, whatever the 23rd is. I'm doing a webinar. It's 1 hour long. It's going to be talking about some of the challenges some of the people in the community had asked me to talk about. That's burnout, and how do we kind of overcome some of those things, and isolation. So I'm going to do a quick little presentation on that, and an offer to come into the community. So we're having a great time in there. It's starting to build. It's real early too. So I just started this year, like about a couple 3 months ago. So come on in. It's lots of things happen when you come in early. So come on into the community. We would love to have you there on these JR 90-day sprints. I'm mashing up leadership, having worn the hat of a CEO and professional speaker, having been recognized one of the top 50 speakers in the world, along with Tony Robbins and Brene Brown, Simon Sinek, and some of the others. That just came out this year for the summer as well. So I'm just making sure that you all know that this is, if you want to be a better leader, communication is really key. Robert Kennedy knows that kind of better than myself as well, because he's fantastic. Please follow him. And we will talk to you a little bit later. Our mantra here is go forth, inspire your world, because go is your command, forth is your direction, inspire is your vocation. Because only you can do this work and world, because you can only do it in your sphere of influence. Pick up the book 10 Power Stories to Impact Any Leader. It's a very short read, man. It's a very short read. It's just great stories. By the end of it, the goal is, by the end of it, you will have 10 of your own stories that you can use during leadership. Remember, I wrote that book for our ambassadors. Have a fantastic day. Go forth, inspire your world. We'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.